aside so that you can run in a by-election. So that has happened. The great Damien Couric has made his riding available. And so it's a step that's required, and I know Mr. Poilievre will work hard to earn the confidence of the people of Battle River Crowfoot in the process, and he'll be back in Parliament very shortly. So,
do you know what is the time range to have these elections, by elections? I mean,
well, as I understand it, it will take place sometime between the end of the spring session we're likely to have and the beginning of the fall session. So it will be, I mean, the exact date, hard to know, but, fundamentally, he's going to be out and about in other places in the spring, and then he'll be back in the fall. So the role Andrew Scheer is taking on is an important administrative function to formally, legally, there needs to be someone who is a member of Parliament who can exercise certain administrative functions.
Yes.
And Andrew Scheer, who is already the House Leader, will be taking on those functions. So it's a logical extension of the work he's already doing as House Leader. And I think...
the Parliament will be open May 26th, or be called to open May 26th.
Yeah. And Andrew's absolutely the right guy for it, because he's though he's still a relatively young man. He's kind of at that elder statesman stage of the Conservative Party, where he's got experience in different kind of roles, and he can be trusted to keep things moving in the right direction without going outside the appropriate parameters.
Yes, and he did great job in his election, in his as role as a leader. 2019 elections. He is a very good guy, the best for this. And just want to note that Pierre Poilievre, though he loses his riding, but he get more votes. He got 38,000. However, the last elections was 35,000. So. This is
that's the realignment. Yeah, the realignment's significant.
Yes. Okay, let me tell you about the last thing about this. Definitely, you will study what happened in this election. Yeah. So, are there any trends for change? Do you expect in what parts the change will be on that policy for the Conservatives, for sure?
I mean, I think for us, we can see how we have established that new durable conservative coalition in Canada that includes that is more diverse regionally, ethnoculturally, and demographically. It really draws in young people who are aspiring to be able to get a good job, to own a home. It's a coalition of interests that includes people that are more established, but also those hungry, aspirational voters who want to have the promise and the opportunity. So, as we continue to develop, you don't add by subtraction, right? You don't say we're gonna jettison this group in order to get that group. No, that's not the approach we're going to take. We're gonna continue to work with that coalition we have and seek to add to it, and just ask the question: who are the folks that have conservative values, that are strivers, that are like-minded, but that somehow didn't get to voting for us this time. That's what you have to do. It's not some dramatic reformulation. It's saying, how do we go to the next step?
Let me tell you something. I was surprised that the youth voted for the Conservative because they have more liberal views. But what I understand that from this, anyone who wants to live normally in Canada would like to think for the Conservative, because what's happened in the last decade was a catastrophic for all Canadians in many aspects, not only economically, but security and safety, morale, everything, even the attachment of some of the World Economic Forum values, which is really applied here extensively, and many believe that it is not made for humans. Anyway, that's good to include more people. I like this so much. Yeah. Now we got for the most hot topic, Mr. President, Mr. Trump.
Yes.
And the U.S. relations. What do you think about the last meeting between Mr. Trump and Mr. Carney? How do you rate or evaluate Mr. Carney's performance with President Trump?
Well, obviously, as conservatives, we're Canadians first. We want Canada to succeed. And,
I love this answer.
So I think in the main, I'll say time will tell. Of course, we don't know all the things that were said or all the contacts that are happening.
But nothing announced has significant value.
Yeah, I mean, the core problem is the economic damage being done to our country, and that economic damage is continuing. So. Clearly Canada will never be the 51st state. Clearly we have to strongly defend our sovereignty.
And Mr. Carney make this point clear.
But we also have to protect ourselves from the economic damage being done.
Yes.
And I think one major point of differentiation between the parties in Canada has been that we have emphasized, in the context of this threat, we have to strengthen Canada by making essential changes like building the infrastructure that will allow us to access new markets, so we're not as dependent on one customer. My father-in-law is an entrepreneur, and he would tell me about the great thing about being an entrepreneur is you don't just work for one person, right?
Yes,
if you have 100 clients, right, and one of them has a problem with you. Then you got 99 clients, right? If you're an employee and you work for one person and they have a problem with you, you're out of a job, right? So I don't want Canada to be stuck in the one customer problem, right? To extend that analogy, we don't want to be an employee of the United States. We want to sell to the United States, but we also want to have other customers. And Stephen Harper, when he was Prime Minister, he had the wisdom, the vision to negotiate free trade deals for Canada with countries representing most of the world's GDP. Most essentially, there's the Canada-EU free trade deal and the Trans-Pacific Partnership that were negotiated under him. Incredible opportunities. But we have not realized the full potential of those trade deals because under the Liberal government, they have taken a very kind of anti-energy approach. In particular, we haven't seen the construction of pipelines and infrastructure, so what we've said now is recognizing these problems in the United States, we need to act urgently and solve this one customer problem by building pipelines. And to do that, we need to repeal Bill C-69. C-69, exactly. So, and Mark Carney, he talks out of both sides of his mouth on this, right? He says, he talks about energy infrastructure sometimes, depending on whether he's speaking English or French, but then he also says he's going to leave in place Bill C-69. Well, you can't get these things done without repealing Bill C-69.
I do remember that in the campaign of Pierre Poilievre, he mentioned that he will repeal C-69, and he will do a very good projects which creates hundreds of thousands of jobs and billions of revenue, which is the AI hub. I asked these questions many times. What is the big projects that will solve the economic dilemma in Canada for the Liberals? We see some food stuff, we see some things, but it is not that big revenues for Canada. What do you think about the economic performance or the plan? Sorry, not performance, the plan of the Liberals now.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've seen in recent years from the Liberals is actually a kind of regression in economic thinking, because there were times in the past where
It's clear.
this kind of statist economic model was predominant, where the government would say which sectors they liked and didn't, and the expectation is that if something big was going to move, the government was going to be part of it, and I think we as our economy developed, we moved away from that in recognizing, and I think for a time there was a cross-party recognition of this, that lowering taxes, reducing or limiting regulation, opening things up for investors, and letting the entrepreneurs decide what the next big thing was going to be, and just getting government out of the way, that was an important way to actually move our country forward. And listening, paying attention to kind of where are the needs for in terms of policy, but not in a heavy-handed kind of picking winners and losers kind of way. But the tone under Justin Trudeau, and I think I expect it will continue under Mark Carney, is much more of this sort of fundamentally centrally planned, state-managed decision-making. Mark Carney's, I think, associated with this idea of stakeholder capitalism, and he wrote about it in his book Values. Yeah. This idea that corporations and government get together, figure out what kinds of values or sectors are important, and then try to push that through the economic system. You hear him talk about markets, but almost never free markets, right? Mm-hmm. So they're actually, I think there's a different. So my answer to the question of like what's the next big project, I would say like we need to remove the gatekeepers. We need to remove the blockages that are preventing entrepreneurs. I mean, clearly we can see some areas where there will be opportunities, but the way we realize those opportunities is not through a state-managed industrial strategy. It's through removing gatekeepers.
Actually, I have a little bit of questions. What is the plan of Mr. Carney? Not because it is not clear, but what he wrote in his book and what he looks for is different than what he do for his multi-millions company Brookfield, and what he plans for Canada is a little bit three different opinion. And I really do not criticize him now. I just want to know where is Canada is heading economically, because people are really suffering. I have a surprise question for you.
Yeah.
Would Canada be part of the European Union?
No, I don't think so.
There is a lot of close views between Mr. Carney and Europe, France, England, and visits and such stuff. And there is a lot of, rumors or news about that. What do you think?
Well, look, I think we should work with our partners in Europe and in East Asia and all over the world. I think one of the areas where a lot of Europeans would want to work with us is actually on energy. Yeah. We have a problem of over-reliance on one customer, and they have a problem of over-reliance on suppliers that don't share their interests or their values. So we can solve problems for each other. But I think I don't think there's an appetite on either side for Canadian membership in the European Union or something like that, and Canadians want to protect their sovereignty, and so it'll be
a little bit far.
Yeah, but the point is cooperation on what? Like let's work together in the obvious area where they have a problem and we have a problem, which is energy. Rather than, on the one hand, doing photo ops with international leaders, but not pursuing cooperation in this essential area. And it's not being pursued by the Liberals for ideological reasons. They're ideologically opposed to Canadian energy.
Let's move to another important topic, which is religious freedom, in which Janice is a pioneer, and actually our voice to speak about this in the parliament all the way, and have a very proud history for doing this. The most important thing is that he do like putting a bomb before the elections by few days, which about the clause 429 and 430, which speak about the charity status of the religious organizations, churches, mosques, synagogues, and all the religious organizations, and that speak about revoking the charity status because of different reasons, maybe because of those who pro-life organizations, which is the churches, mosques, and synagogues, and many other organizations. And sometimes we have heard about it will be revoked for those who have evangelism or preaching purposes. Let me understand with you exactly, because there is a lot of debate on the social media. What is liberals proposed in the 429, 430 clause?
Yeah, this is an important question because I believe there is a significant threat to charitable status in this country of religious organizations. And look, I don't have to speculate about what's in the minds or hearts of particular other politicians. I can look at objectively what's available in reports that have been published and what's available online. So anybody who raises these concerns, who faces some counter accusation from the other side, I'm going to give you the receipts and you can share them. So every year, the House of Commons Finance Committee prepares and publishes a report with a series of recommendations for the budget. They do detailed budget consultations. They prepare a report with those recommendations. And those recommendations reflect the views of a majority of that committee. And then those go to the Minister of Finance, and she or he can include those or not. So it is a process of recommendations, but those recommendations carry a lot of meaning because they come from parties representing a majority of the House of Commons. So in the middle of December, and there was a lot going on politically, big by-election, Chrystia Freeland's resignation from cabinet, so there's a lot going on that kind of got the attention. But in the midst of that report were two recommendations about charitable status. One recommendation was to remove charitable status from pro-life organizations. And it's important to just clarify that this doesn't mean pro-life advocacy organizations. Organizations who do pro-life political advocacy do not have charitable status anyways, because if you're a political advocacy organization, you're not a charity. That's different.
Yeah.
This would be organizations like churches, hospitals, crisis pregnancy support organizations, if they had a pro-life. But then in addition, in terms of the houses of worship, this is a separate recommendation, 430, which calls for the removal of the advancement of religion as a charitable purpose, which would effectively mean that houses of worship, charitable organizations whose primary purpose is the advancement of religion, they would lose their charitable status.
What do you mean by advancement of religion? Preaching?
So there are different. Hi folks, Garnet Janice here. I want to share something important with you about the charitable status issue that we're discussing in this election. So charities rely on charitable status to be able to issue tax receipts to their donors. It helps them do. So there are different purposes in our law under which an organization can come to be defined as a charity. So one of them is the advancement of religion. If you're signing up with the government to say, I want to be a charity because what I do is the advancement of religion, they check you out, whatever, and then you can receive charitable status. But effectively what this applies to is churches, mosques, houses of worship, who do other charitable work as well, but whose main agenda is to be a community of faith. So these two recommendations were contained in this report that was tabled in December. So this is the Finance Committee. It's not a nonpartisan committee. It's a partisan committee dominated at the time by Liberals and New Democrats. And Conservatives were the only party that dissented from that committee report. So you had the report likely reflective of the position of the Liberal, the Bloc, and the NDP, certainly the Liberals, or else it wouldn't have passed, right? So that report was tabled. We did a lot of work to draw attention to that fact. And I think just one other important thing to understand, if a church were to lose their charitable status, what would be the effect of that? They couldn't write tax receipts anymore, but they also would have to pay a significant tax equivalent to 100% of the value of their assets. So if you're a charity and you own assets and then you lose charitable status, you have to dispose of those assets either by giving them to another similar charity or by or effectively giving them to the government. So losing charitable status would be, it's not just you can't write tax receipts anymore, it's also the loss of assets. So it's very, very significant. So this was recommended by the Liberals in the Finance Committee. And look, we haven't had a budget yet this year, right? So what I said during the election was, folks, we don't know whether they're thinking of putting this in the budget or not. The Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops asked for clarity before the election about whether the government intended to do this, and they didn't receive a response on whether or not they intended to do that. They got a sort of generic, nondescript. So what's going to be in the budget? Is this going to be in the budget or not? Now, I don't know.
When the next budget?
The next budget will be this spring. It'll be
March.
It'll be It'll be when Parliament will come back end of May, and we'll sit through June. So we'll likely see a budget then. And so will these changes be in the budget? I don't know. Not every recommendation from the Finance Committee is included in the budget, so they may choose not to include it. But they have tipped their hand to show this is the opinion of the Liberals who work on finance issues. So, some people might say, don't talk about this. Just wait to see if they do it first. Well, no, I don't think that makes sense at all. They've shown us who they are. They've shown us what they want. And if this is in the budget, there will be very limited time between the budget being proposed and likely it being passed and these things becoming law. So that change can happen very, very quickly. And so it's important for all of us to sound the alarm now, to mobilize our communities, to put pressure on the government to not only to not do it this time, but to commit that they will never do it again in the future.
Okay, and to be proactive is better than to be reactive.
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
It is something that hits all of our life. Especially, I'm speaking about the Middle Eastern communities, which is usually like to be religious on their churches, mosques, synagogues, whatever.
Yeah.
So this is important thing. So do you think a pressure by just sending emails to our MPs or what?
Well, I think it's important for people, like during the election, the case I made was the Conservative Party is the only party committed to defending charitable status for religious organizations and defending charitable status regardless of the political views of the organization. If it's a charity, that charitable status determination should be made in a politically neutral, fair, dispassionate way. So that's what I said during the election was cast your ballot for the Conservatives. And I continue to think Conservatives are the best choice whenever the next election comes. Now that the election's over, I would definitely encourage people to contact. If folks can secure a commitment from their local MP to oppose any such measure, ask your Liberal MP, if this is in the budget, will you vote against the budget?
Okay.
And see what they say.
Okay, that's great. You are from Alberta.
Yes.
And the hot news comes now from Alberta.
Yeah.
Especially after the speech of Premier Daniela Smith about the current, how can we say, agony or dissatisfaction of the Albertans because of C-69s.
Yeah.
And I know that's not only in the energy, but it is for the agriculture as well. There are a lot of things that does not help the economy of Alberta. Yeah. So my first questions. That's what we think. We are from Ontario, but what are the main reasons that the Albertanians not satisfied? Well,
I think for Albertans and people in Saskatchewan as well, there is a real sense that the industries that are most important for our economic well-being are being directly targeted and attacked by the federal government, and that as that continues, that is undermining our ability to pursue the well-being of ourselves and our families, and we have disproportionately paid into developing this country, and we have been prepared to do that. But in the process, we should also be able to develop our resources and get them to market. That's really the core of the frustration. There are obviously other issues. There are various other reasons why people in my riding aren't happy with the federal government. The same is true for people in here in Toronto. But if you want to understand like what the particular dynamic is, it is the hostility from the current federal government to that foundation of our economy. Now, the long history in Western Canada has been to respond to this sense of alienation and unfairness with the call for the West wants in. And this is what the Reform Party said under Preston Manning, the West wants in. Some people now are so frustrated that they're not saying the West wants in, they're saying the West wants out. Personally, I'm still very much in the in camp. I want Alberta to be part of Canada, and I want these issues to be addressed. I think we are best as a country when we're not pitting regions against each other, but when we want to prosper together. When people in Alberta celebrate the success of industries in Quebec and vice versa. But people in Ontario and BC and Maritimes, all parts of the country are seeking the success of each other and of us as a nation together. So I hope that that where the frustration goes is towards solving these problems and ultimately strengthening the unity of our country. But there are some people whose response to these events is to take a West wants out as opposed to in approach. Yeah. I don't agree with that.
But if the referendum done and the Albertans vote for going out, what will be the situation? And would it be constitutional if you are out? And my next question, where you will go, as a separate country or the 51st state?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of those things are kind of very, very speculative. Look, talking to people in my constituency and other parts of Alberta, I don't think I don't think there's anywhere near a critical mass that wants to see any kind of outcome that involves us leaving Canada. We want to see the issues and challenges that we're facing addressed in a constructive way, and we're not seeking anything for Alberta that we wouldn't want for the rest of the country as well. We want everybody to prosper. We want everybody to be able to develop. We want everybody to be able to be heard and respected. So that should be the goal, and that's hopefully where we'll get.
Actually, there's a lot of questions about extending pipeline, but I know I exhausted you by my questions. My last questions about ethnic media.
Yes.
It is not the era of freedom of speech, C11, C18, C63. Yeah. And we media and ethnic media especially are very close to their communities. Yeah. And actually we are not only not supported in Canada or by government, but sometimes we have been, how can we say, we have been prevented by some ways or another. I'm not sure this is government or not, but the atmosphere does not encourage free speech. What's your comment?
Well, I think it's very interesting to see the diversity of media, of different kinds of media, and our approach as a Conservative Party has been to engage with everybody. We do that because Canada's a diverse place, and people are getting information from lots of different kinds of media organizations with different kinds of approaches. And I really appreciate the work you do, and I know we've talked from time to time, and I'm here in Toronto today doing a lot of different kinds of interviews with ethnic media. we can have good, detailed conversations about public issues. And I do think the other thing is sometimes in politics there's such a tendency towards that gotcha moment, and it's nice to be able to engage these long form conversations. And I think ethnic media does this a lot. You got lots of podcasts out there that are doing this too. Our leader Pierre Poilievre, he sat down for some very long, detailed podcast interviews in the lead up to and during the election. And we need to be we need to recognize how the environment has changed. Freedom of speech is so important. That diversity of voices facilitates the diversity of perspectives and freedom. And I think sometimes with the Liberals, they want to they want to go back to a different era in media, and I think you got to recognize where we are. There's some challenges associated with that. There's some opportunities associated with that, but we've got to embrace the future and communicate in a way that reflects that reality.
MP Garnet Janice, thank you very much for these insights. We really need those answers, and I appreciate your coming and your effort for the religious freedom and many things. So I really would like to thank you for your role, and for sure Canada needs such great and honest voices. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.